Hello everyone, it's Dr. Mohib, and in this lecture we will be going through step style questions. Before going through step style questions, I want you to know how to approach step style questions. Now, the very first thing to do in order to solve the step style question is to read the last line. It will give you an overview of what is asked in the question stem. Then have a quick glance of answer options. Then go through the question stem. Then look for hide clues and buzzwords in the question stem, then match it with the correct answer, and at last eliminate the distractors. Sometimes you are asked to choose the most suitable option. All the options are correct and you have to choose the most suitable option. So in this case, you have by eliminating the distractors, you can solve it easily. Now let's solve some questions based on this approach. Question number 1. Which of the following is the most likely underlying cause of this patient's dysphagia? Now let's look at the answer options. Aortic aneurysm, esophageal carcinoma, left atrial enlargement, bronchogenic carcinoma, and Zenker diverticulum. All of these options are potential causes of dysphagia. Now let's go through the question stem. A 62-year-old man presents to his physician with progressive difficulty swallowing liquids and solids over the past few months. He also reports occasional shortness of breath when lying flat and waking up at night with breathlessness. So this patient has symptoms of heart failure. This patient has orthopnea, which is a feature of heart failure. His past medical history is significant for long-standing hypertension and rheumatic fever in childhood. So this patient has long-standing hypertension, which is one of the cause for heart failure, and also a history of rheumatic fever in childhood. Physical examination reveals an early diastolic murmur best heard at the cardiac apex and an irregularly irregular pulse. So the cardiac apex is also known as mitral area. There are three types of murmurs heard at this area. All of the murmurs related to mitral valve are heard at this area, like mitral stenosis, mitral regurgitation, and mitral valve prolapse. Among all of these, only the stenotic type of murmur is the diastolic one. The other murmurs are systolic. So this patient has mitral stenosis, which is one of the late complication of rheumatic fever. Now, this patient also has an irregularly irregular pulse, which is due to or the pulsatile feature of AFib. AFib is uh, an effect of is due to left atrial enlargement. So let's put everything into perspective. This patient has a history of rheumatic fever. So this patient has a rheumatic fever in childhood. The late complication of rheumatic fever is mitral stenosis, which leads to left atrial enlargement. As a complication of left atrial enlargement, this patient has AFib, which also and mitral stenosis has also led to heart failure. Now, a barium swallow shows posterior displacement and compression of mid-esophagus. This is the HILD or buzzword, the posterior displacement and compression of mid-esophagus. This occurs due to left atrial enlargement. So the correct option is left atrial enlargement. Let's review the other options or other differentials. Now the differentials for dysphagia are aortic aneurysm. It can also cause dysphagia, but the symptoms of the patient would be chest pain, and on X-ray we would have a widened mediastinum, which is not present in this case, and on barium swallow we would have anterior and leftward compression of esophagus. In bronchogenic carcinoma we would have a history of weight loss, cough, and hemoptysis, and on barium swallow we would have a focal mass effect or focal mass compression. Then Zenker diverticulum is also one of the potential causes for dysphagia. In Zenker diverticulum, we would have regurgitation of undigested food and halitosis, which is a bad breath or bad smell coming from the mouth due to retention of food in the diverticulum. And it usually affects the upper esophagus, not mid. and esophageal carcinoma. In esophageal carcinoma, we again have progressive dysphagia to solids and liquids. We also have a history of weight loss, and on barium swallow, we would have intrinsic obstruction of esophagus. So this was all about dysphagia. Now let's switch to other question. Which of the following cardiac structures is most likely to have been injured? The answer options are left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, or right ventricle. So this gives us an idea that in this question stem we would have a scenario of an injury or trauma to the heart. Now let's go through the question stem. A 25-year-old man is brought to the emergency department after a high-speed motor vehicle collision. He was the unrestrained driver and struck his chest against the steering wheel. On arrival, he is conscious but appears anxious. His blood pressure is 84 by 52, which is low. Heart rate is 122 beats per minute, which is high, and respiratory rate of 26 beats per minute, which is again high. Physical examination reveals jugular venous distension, muffled heart sounds, and clear lungs. His trachea is midline. Focused assessment with sonography for trauma, also known as FAST test, shows fluid around the heart. Now, which of the following cardiac structures is most likely to have been injured? This patient has cardiac tamponade. So this patient has accumulation of blood around heart, and it is evident by Beck's triad. Beck's triad consists of hypotension. This patient has hypotension. Then we have muffled heart sounds, again present muffled heart sounds, and at last jugular venous distension, which is also present in this case. In these questions, we have been asked which of the following structure is most likely to have been injured. Now, the correct option is right ventricle. Right ventricle is the anterior most structure of our heart. It is located directly behind the sternum and most susceptible to injury in blunt trauma to chest. So, the correct option is right ventricle. Let's let's review some differentials for heart trauma. When the heart trauma we can have in heart trauma we can have aortic rupture. The key features for aortic ruptures are high speed motor trauma, and we would have massive hemothorax on fast scan. On chest x-ray we would have widened mediastinum. Another complication of heart trauma is tension pneumothorax. In tension pneumothorax we have absent breath sounds and tracheal deviation. On percussion we would have hyperresonant rungs. Myocardial contusion without tamponade is another complication or a differential for heart trauma. It presents with chest pain and arrhythmia, but there is no Beck's triad. Left ventricular rupture is also a potential cause, but it is a very rare cause for heart trauma. It usually presents post MI. It is very rare in blunt trauma. And right atrial rupture is again very rare because it is less exposed than right ventricle. It is a posterior chamber and less likely to be injured. Now let's go to another question. Which of the following coronary arteries is most likely occluded in this patient? Now the answer options are left anterior descending artery, left circumflex artery, right coronary artery, posterior descending artery, and left main coronary artery. So in this gives us an idea that this patient have MI or some sort of angina, and we would have to look for the blocked artery. So let's go through the question stem. A 60-year-old man is brought to the ER with severe crushing chest pain radiating to his left arm and jaw for the past 30 minutes. So this patient has classical angina symptoms. He is diaphoretic and anxious. He has a history of type 2 diabetes and hyperlipidemia. The blood pressure is 140 by 90 mm of Hg. Heart rate is 102 beats per minute and oxygen saturation is 96% on room air. An ECG shows ST segment elevation in lead 2, 3 and AVF, and serum troponin I levels are elevated. Now the key things or high things or buzzwords are ST segment elevation in lead 2, 3 and AVF. This shows or these readings show us that a particular segment of heart or a particular artery has been blocked. Whenever we have an ST segment elevation in lead 2, 3 and AVF, this means that we have a blockade of right coronary artery. So the correct option is right coronary artery. The elevated serum troponin I levels show that this patient has MI, specifically in inferior wall MI. The right coronary artery supplies inferior wall. It also supplies right ventricle and also supplies SA and AV node. So this patient, so a blockade of right coronary artery can also present with hypotension since it supplies right ventricle. So as a complication we can have hypotension and also bradycardia or sinus bradycardia or AV block because it supplies SA and AV node too. Now let's go through the ECG findings and its interpretation. So whenever we have an ST segment elevation in lead 2, 3 and AVF, this shows that we have an inferior wall MI which is due to an occlusion of right coronary artery. Whenever we have an ST segment elevation in leads V1, 2, 3 and 4, this shows that we have an anterior wall MI which is supplied by left anterior descending artery. And ST segment elevation in lead 1 AVL and V5 V6. This shows that this patient has a lateral wall MI which is supplied by left circumflex artery, and ST segment elevation in leads V7 to V9, which we usually do not place in routine ECG. This shows that this patient has posterior wall MI which is due to posterior descending artery occlusion, which can be a branch of right coronary artery or left circumflex artery depending on the dominant circulation of the patient. And let's review the coronary blood supply. The left anterior descending artery supplies anterior wall, anterior septum and apex of the heart, and the leads affected on ECG are V1 to V4, and the complication can be left ventricle failure and septal rupture. The right coronary artery supplies inferior wall, right ventricle and SA and AV nodes. The leads affected are lead 2, 3 and AVF as present in this case, and the common complications are bradycardia and AV block. Also we can have hypotension. Left circumflex artery supplies lateral wall of left ventricle. The leads affected are lead 1, AVL, V5 and V6, and its common complication is again left ventricular dysfunction or heart failure, and posterior descending artery which can be a branch of right coronary artery or left circumflex artery. It supplies posterior wall and inferior septum. The leads affected are V7 to V9, which are also known as posterior leads, and its complications are posterior MI and right ventricular infarct. So this was all about step style questions. Thank you.